Hi everyone, today we'll be talking about impact of life without databases. So we already know what a database is. We have created databases on Access, and we know that using a database is much easier, especially on a computer, than a database on a book or anything. So today we can imagine that there will be a drastic change in our lives if there weren't databases. All right, so we'll get into it. So, impact of life without databases can be affecting in many industries as well. But first of all, the potential impacts would be these five. So, difficulty to search and retrieve data, difficulty in making decisions, limited e-commerce, reduced reliability of data, and difficult to organize data. Now, let me explain this one by one. Okay, so the first one, difficulty to search and retrieve data. What does this mean? Search, well, we understand. Retrieve is to select a specific information or data. For example, if we wanted to find the number of males who participated in an activity or the number of female students in a class, we can use queries to do this. So if this was not on a database and on a it was an unstructured database, so that it wasn't structured or anything, this would have been very difficult. And if it wasn't on a application like Access or anything, and it was just a manual database where we have to write everything on a book, this will not be easy to do, and it will take a lot of time. And obviously it can lead to the next point, or the fourth point, which is reduced reliability of data. So when we don't know, as in if it's not on a database, as you guys remember, when we created the foreign keys, and like we matched the primary keys and the foreign keys, we enforced referential integrity and so on. So therefore, it's much more reliable data than a manual database. And then the next point, difficulty in making decisions. So using so Access is a simple application. There are much more advanced applications used to make databases, and sometimes the company, they create their own application to maintain their databases, because then it's very specific for the company and it makes their functions much faster and easier. So we can, so if we take Access for an example, we can make reports, we can create forms using the database. So decision making is much faster. And then limited e-commerce. What do we mean by limited e-commerce? So we know e-commerce, we can do online transactions. It's just one example, but that's what all of us are very familiar with thanks to COVID. Databases are crucial for e-commerce and online transactions, and without them, it would be difficult to manage customer data, their card, like the bank card details, their bills, almost everything. So reduced reliability, we talked about that. Then difficult to organize data. This includes from the part where we started to create the table and entering the data. So when we created the tables, if you guys remember, we put validation rules and so on. We put format size, we put input mask, and so you guys understand that when we use the database and we put these validation rules, it was much easier. We can like select whether it's a number field, whether it's a short text. So it was very easy to organize our data in different tables when it's a structured database. But imagine this was a manual database, or it was just a flat database, or it was an unstructured database where it was just text on a notepad. That would have been very hard to search our data, and obviously hard to make decisions therefore. All right, so next we'll move on how this can impact in different industries. Right, so education, policing, healthcare, library, traveling, government, and social media. Right, so first let's go to policing. Policing is like, so there are a few points that I'd like to mention under policing. Difficulty in storing and managing criminal records. Now we know what criminal records is. So databases allow police departments to store and manage criminal records. So that includes arrest records, conviction records, fingerprints. So, when we store their fingerprints on a database, when we always, we can track their activities, what they have done during the past few years, their jobs, whether they've done anything, and whether they've done any like thefts or robberies, whether they're murderers. So this is easy to track them down, as in their history of doing such things. So if we didn't have a database, that would have been very hard. So they can even lie to the police, and many different many difficulties would occur. Reduced efficiency in investigation. Now, why does this reduce efficiency in investigations? Because it includes managing evidences as well. So when we maintain a database in policing, it would help the investigations, it would be more efficient, it will be less time consuming if we had a database. So if we didn't have a database, that would lead to decreased ability to solve crimes. So the next point is, if we didn't have a database in policing, there will be difficulty in managing and sharing information across agencies. So in any country, there are agencies where there are times where agencies have to work together in order to solve a crime or anything, or like a national problem. Even when COVID came, there were so the agencies had to work together. So databases are often used to manage and share information across different law enforcement agencies. So without that, sharing information would be more challenging. All right. So the next point is a reduced ability to analyze crime patterns. When I mentioned about criminal records, it was kind of the same. So when we have a database with the dates that they have done the crime, with the people who did the crime, the locations that they've done the crime, how they did the crime, and so on. And if we keep a track on this, we can, even if we couldn't find the person who did the crime, investigating and analyzing their history of the crimes, we can analyze a crime pattern, and then probably we can predict their next move, and that will be easier for the police to bring those people to court. Right. Next, so that's policing. And then the next question is, the next one is education. Now, this is a very close one to us, as most of us are schooling. So just imagine if your school didn't have a database in the school office. That would have been very hard to manage the students' personal data, to manage student records, to track student progress. I mean, every time we have a unit exam, monthly exam, or mocks, or anything, the teachers can update your marks, and then they can, so looking at your progress, looking at your test scores, looking at your behavior in class, so they can update the database on these factors, and then for your exams they can create predicted marks. They can allocate you predicted grades, especially when you apply for university in year 13. Also, when they track your progress during parents meeting, they can tell how well you performed in school, what you can improve on. And then if you didn't have a database in school, there will be limited access to educational resources. So many schools, they do maintain a storage for where only people in the school can access, where you can get. So library is one example. So even in libraries, so we'll get to libraries later on, but if the library didn't have a database as to what books they have, what have been issued, what are not still given back, by the students who borrowed them. If they didn't have a database about these information, imagine what sort of chaos that would have caused when another student wants the book and they don't know where it is, whether it's been taken out. Wow. I mean, that would be very hard to run the school. So there are other problems, right? Reduced efficiency in administrative tasks, limited ability to analyze educational data, and so on. So next one is social media. Well, all of us use social media. So what is the impact of life without a database in social media? So there will be limited ability to store and manage user information. So this includes personal information, like storing and managing your personal information, user preferences, and account activity. So what does that mean? Any social media platform uses a database to store your username, your passwords, and so on. So whenever you log in, they will access that database and validate whether your password's correct, whether your username's correct, and if not, they'll show you an error message. So for that, they'll use one database, and then user preferences. So for example, if in Instagram, if you have liked a certain type of posts a lot, for example, if you've liked a lot of comics or like about celebrity information and so on. So according to so that is kind of your preference, right? Like you like a post before because you prefer to see that kind of content. So then automatically they will show you more information about that certain topic that you're interested in. So that's all. So if we didn't have a database in social media, there would be reduced ability to personalize content. All right, and then the next one is there will be difficulty in tracking user activity if we didn't have a database. So for example, if I searched for a certain airline ticket or like anything like that, when I go, for example, another social media platform is Facebook. So if I search some airline ticket on Facebook, so after that, when I go on Facebook again, they'll show me advertisements, they'll show me posts about airline tickets and so on. So that's tracking user activity. And then a reduced ability to handle large amounts of data if they didn't have a database. So social media every day, every single second, at like a lot of people post a lot of things on social media every single second. So if we didn't have a database, I think that application might collapse because they cannot handle that amount of data. All right. So we talked about policing, education, social media. Now let's move on to government. So why is databases useful for governments? One, managing public records. This includes your birth certificates, your marriage licenses, and property deeds. Without them, managing public records would be much more challenging, leading to a decrease in efficiency and accuracy. And then reduced ability to track financial transactions. Databases are often used to track financial transactions, including taxes and government spending. Um, so without them, tracking financial transactions would be more difficult, leading to a reduced ability to monitor and manage government finances. So when they track each person's financial transactions, for example, they track your monthly income. Depending on that, they'll generate the amount of tax that you need to pay. Okay, so this is an important point when it comes to government, sharing information across government agencies. Databases are often used to manage and share information across different government agencies. I mean, without them, sharing information would be much challenging, leading to decreased ability to collaborate and coordinate government operations, not just national, but internationally, globally as well. Then talking about public service delivery, like welfare programs and public health initiatives. I mean, without a database, for example, when we have public health initiatives, like, for example, COVID, all of us are very familiar with that. When we were given vaccines, and if there was no database about the people in a certain town, people in a certain um, city, if they did not know how many people were in a house, how many children, how many adults their ages and so on. If they had no database, that they will not be able to like come up to a conclusion as to how many vaccines should be given to a certain city, how many healthcare um, doctors or nurses should be gone to that place to give these vaccines to the public, and like the approximation, their decision making would have been very, very difficult. Okay. And then difficulty in managing national security. Um, Databases are used for national security purposes, including managing border control and tracking criminal activity. We talked about criminal activity in policing. Without them, managing national security would be more challenging, leading to reduced ability to ensure public safety. Right. Traveling. What do I mean by traveling is that, as I mentioned in social media, uh, that's an application for social media. So taking the example that I took, airlines. So when we go to a website to book a air ticket, and they first take our information, our name, our age, where we want to go to, where we're from, what sort of ticket, whether it's business class or whatever. So that information, they'll take that and they'll store in their own database with the information. It might be relational or unstructured, doesn't matter, but they'll obviously put it in a database so that after you've taken your ticket, they'll update their database saying that the ticket was issued, and after you are done traveling, they'll say that, okay, this ticket is done, there's no other ticket like this. So they'll obviously update their databases, so this is much easier for them to track the number of, so by doing this, like, they can assume, like, not assume, they'll know the number of people on the flight. They'll know how much income they should get from this. So that will be easier for all of us. Even if we lost some information, we can go back to them, and if we can get information from them. So it will be easier for them to give us information as well as for us to receive information when they have a database. So the next one is library. The most important one about library is limited ability to provide access to resources. As I mentioned before, for example, we needed a book, and obviously in a library, it's not like just 50 books or something, there's thousands of books. So if a person wanted to borrow a specific book and they don't know whether they have it, and they had a database, had created a database, they can go search whether the book is there by the author's name or the book's name, and they can let the person know whether the book is there or whether it has been borrowed or the library doesn't have the book. All right, then reduced ability to track user activity. So if we kept a database, for example, the people who borrow books and the books that they've borrowed, the date that they borrowed, and then when they should give it back to the library. So in this manner, we can set queries, we can create forms, and if you've noticed in some libraries, they'll be like the reader of the month, as in the person who has read the most number of books during that time period. So we can create queries and find these kind of things to motivate. So it's good for the library. I mean, they can motivate others to read more by doing this, and it's easier for them to find that person instead of finding in a manual database. And then there's reduced efficiency in administrative tasks. So databases are used for administrative tasks, including managing library finances, tracking library usage. Without them, administrative tasks would be more time consuming and less efficient, leading to a decreased ability to manage libraries effectively. All right, so that is libraries, and then we have healthcare. So there is difficulty in storing and managing patient records and tracking patient progress. For example, if it's a person who has been in the hospital for a while, if we can track their reports, their blood reports, or any sort of reports, if they have done an operation, their progress in getting better. So this can be tracked easily when it's on a structured database. So databases are often used to track patient progress, including medication history and treatment outcomes. So without them, tracking patient progress would be more difficult. So that would lead to reduced ability to monitor patient health and provide a targeted interventions. And then, so there's reduced efficiency in medical research. So as you know, databases are used for medical research, including clinical trials and data analysis. So without them, medical research would be more time consuming and less efficient, leading to a decreased ability to develop new treatments and improve healthcare outcomes. And also limited ability to share information across health providers. Um, so databases are often used to manage and share information across different healthcare providers. Without them, sharing information would be more challenging, leading to a decreased ability to collaborate and coordinate care. Another point is difficulty in managing healthcare operations. So these are used for healthcare operations, which include managing inventory and scheduling appointments. Without them, healthcare operations would be more challenging. For example, we can go online and channel our own doctor. We don't have to go to the hospital and talk to the reception and put a doctor appointment. That would be very time consuming, and for us there's a traveling cost. But now we can easily just at home turn on the computer, go to the hospital website and put an appointment, which is much easier and user friendly. Right, so that is it. These are the main few industries I thought would be helpful. I mean, there can be 6 mark questions in the paper. So, I mean, they can either give one of the industries, or they can generally ask what is the impact for different industries. So then we can bring up a few examples. So I hope this was very educative and hope you guys understood something. It's kind of common sense and common knowledge. It's like the same application goes into different industries. So don't worry, even if there was an industry which was not mentioned within these 7, don't panic. You can apply. Just think. You can just think and write actually. So yeah, I hope you guys understood this, and thank you so much for watching this video.